Kelsey Ziser and I have been on both sides of the PR journalism divide. We worked together at a PR firm pitching stories, and now she's a tech journalist at Information Week, deciding which ones matter. Today, we're unpacking a hard truth for brands. You don't control the story, but you can influence it. Kelsey, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Maggie. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I open every interview the same way. In news, we both know that you lead with your best. So why not start with the headline? If someone only listens to the first, few minutes of this, what's the single most important thing brands need to understand about working with journalists today?
hmm I love the old adage of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Not calling anyone stupid, but you know what it means.
Oh, yeah.
So just being as clear, concise, and to the point as people can be, the shorter the pitch, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, one of my PR friends, he posted something on LinkedIn actually this week and said, if you need 1,500 words to write your press release to tell the story, you don't have a story. So it sounds like
Mhm.
it's very similar to that concept you're trying to
Yes.
get to, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's one thing that can sometimes frustrate me is, and I get it because I've been on the PR side, is some of what feels like the fluff, added language, calling your company the leader in X, you know, we know you're great at
Yeah.
what you do. But all that just additional language, sometimes things get lost in the noise. So being as clear as you can helps us to get to what's most important from that announcement. So yes, 1,500 words is way too long. Please don't do that.
Well, speaking of, both of us have been on the PR side and the journalism side. So this is a really interesting topic for both of us to cover. When brands think they can control the narrative, like where do they go wrong?
Mhm. I think, in some ways it can make the journalists feel like they're being micromanaged. I don't report to whoever this PR person is, and it can feel a little bit like that. Like they think we're in the same organization, and that's not the case. Also, I value trust and respect, and that I'm going to do the best job that I can. So again, going back to that micromanaging of let me do my job. I know what I'm doing. And then sometimes for example, I'll get an email where I've written an article and then someone says, this isn't quite right. And really it feels a little bit like splitting hairs. Um, if you do absolutely have to do that, I would suggest sending a specific suggestion of here's how I would rewrite that sentence. Because just telling me it's wrong, I'm like, well, where do I go from here?
So what happens when brands try to too hard to steer the story for you?
I think the essence of what's important can get lost. Sometimes people focus too much on the nuance of wording, or maybe they would have worded it a different way, or their client isn't exactly happy with how the article sounds or how they portray, how the journalist portrays a certain executive. So I think that's when the PR person needs to kind of put their mediator hat on and think about, did the journalist capture the essence of the announcement or what was trying to be conveyed? And then also, is it good enough? Can they negotiate with their client and say, you know what? This isn't really what we need to focus on. We're getting too far down into the weeds. We're splitting hairs a little bit. Let's let this go. Because you can, get to a point where you're annoying the journalist and they might not be as likely to work with you in the future.
Well, that's what I was thinking. You don't want to, burn that bridge.
hmm Yeah, because we don't want to feel micromanaged or that you don't trust us to do our job. Because at the end of the day, I don't report to the PR person.
Yeah.
So there has to be that line in the sand there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's talk practically. From where you sit now as a tech journalist, what do brands misunderstand most about pitching or working with reporters?
hmm Sometimes I'll just get, we kind of hit on it a little bit earlier, but I'll just get a really long pitch Also, I'm not going to open any attachments you send me unless I know you. That's
That's
just
a
like
good
a
one. Yeah.
security concern.
Yeah.
So I tell people just copy the press release below your pitch or send me a link to it. That's fine. Also, make it really clear what the call to action is. I also feel like it's really helpful if folks convey that they actually know me and it's not just, you can tell when it's a blanket pitch that it went out to 500 different journalists
Yeah.
versus someone who says, hey, I also went to UNC. I'm a Tar Heel. By the way, I think you might be really interested in that. If you can find that kind of human
Yeah.
connection, that'll get my attention. I just get so many emails. I get it. It's tough to stand out in someone's
Yeah.
inbox because I'm sure, I'm not alone. Everyone is just swamped with so many email requests.
Are there any instant red flags that make you delete an email or move past it?
If it Sometimes we'll laugh with each other on the team about, would you believe I got this? And it's something that's just so far afield. Like somehow I got on Hallmark's list and they'll send me an update about here's our latest Hallmark wine line. I didn't know they had like a line of wines, I guess, to go with your like Christmas Hallmark movie. You can be
That seems
sipping one of their
interesting for a
wines.
tech journalist. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be that. I got another one the other day about some event called Lightapalooza, which I think is about residential lighting, which just as a consumer, I'm like, oh, that could be interesting. But it doesn't have anything to do with my job at all. So things that are clearly not right. I also sometimes get people say, hi, Ziser, my last name, or Kelly, if they get my name wrong, or it'll
Oh,
just say, hi, X. It's like when the mail merge didn't quite work.
yeah.
I kind of like to respond to those sometimes, and I'm like, hey, that's the wrong person.
Well, now I have to think back to when we worked together in PR and how did that time that we spent together approach how you tell stories today?
hmm It did give me kind of an empathy for the PR role, and I know how difficult it can be at managing what your client wants versus what the reporter needs. So I try and, approach those interactions, just any interaction really with, kindness and empathy and understanding they also have a job to do and they're trying to do it well. Um, and I think it's helped me also navigate through some of that fluff we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
some of that um, just padded language that kind of, to me, it kind of masks what's important. And I understand why it's there from having that PR background. But it does help to know what that sounds like to, okay, this is a buzzword. I can just kind of skip past that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really passionate about AI, and I know it's changed so much in how content is created and how much of it exists. So from a former journalist perspective, really what's shifting now that we have AI in our world?
hmm I think it's opened up a lot of new tools for journalists
Mm,
to, in their research, writing, content generation. I've noticed some publications have started using AI for their featured images, which I actually, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this too, but I'm not sure about that from like an ethical copyright standpoint. Like, what does that mean for the publication if it's pulling these images from photographers? Is there a copyright infringement issue there?
yeah,
Because
no, I
sometimes,
mean, I think
you do get
yeah,
notifications if you haven't, um, you know, properly vetted a photograph.
yeah, no, absolutely. You're raising a good point. Something that definitely I think has been in the news, and we've seen. What about AI generated pitches? Are they something that you see and you can spot easily? And do you think it hurts people trying to get coverage?
I haven't really noticed it. I think probably because I'm skimming a lot anyway.
Yeah,
So, if I was really digging in and reading something, I would probably notice that the language sounds a little bit off. Um, and then I also think you would most likely be missing that personalized part that I was talking about of finding some way to relate to me. hey, we both went to the same college, or even better, I read your article on X. This part was really interesting, and I think you might be interested in speaking with this person. Um,
Oh, I
Super
love that.
helpful.
Connecting the dots to why you would actually want to cover a story. You know what I mean? Because it's something that you already cover. I mean, it seems kind of pretty obvious, but
Mhm.
a lot of people probably don't take the time to do that.
Yeah, and I totally understand that it takes a lot more time than sending out an email blast, but it is so much more likely that I'm going to read and follow up and be interested in what you have to say. If you can show me that you've done just a little bit of research on who I am and what I cover, instead of do I want to attend a residential lighting show? You know?
Oh, well, besides not sending you a residential lighting show and being a little bit more personal in the pitching, what else do you think people can do starting tomorrow to help them earn better media coverage?
I would just say, also really be careful about cleaning up your lists, who you're sending things to.
Mhm.
Um, are these really the journalists that you need to be, front facing with? And then also, I would really recommend people think about attending and speaking at events. That's a great way to meet journalists and build that relationship. When I go to an event, I usually attend a couple panels or keynotes, and then I'll also do some one-on-one briefings or podcasts or videos at the event. And those people stick in my mind so much more if I've met them, I've gotten to know the executive.
Yeah.
They give me some real specifics about what their focus areas are, and then I can also get to know the PR people and their personality, and probably makes them more likely to respond to me. Um, I think real quick, just a thought I had going back to some of our earlier discussions about maybe what not to do. Another issue that comes up periodically for me is at the end of a call, usually a PR person says, "Hey, let me know if you need anything additional. Happy to help." I'm like, "Thanks." And there are a number of times where I realize, oh, I meant to ask this question, or I really would love to have an image. And I would say 80% of the time I don't hear back from people. And
Mm.
it's so frustrating because you're writing on deadline, and I'm like, this is your whole job
Yep.
is to, well, to,
So you're saying
get,
follow up
yes.
on that.
Exactly. Yes. Follow through, super important. And I have brought that up with some PR folks before, and they said, sometimes it's an issue of getting the client to approve the response. And I said, that's fine, but just let me know that you're working on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key. And I do love a point you brought up too about relationship building with journalists and how important that is. And I think people forget that. They want to reach out to you when they need you, but what about those other times where you could continue to build that relationship and you learn a little bit more about their expertise and what they can do, and then you're likely to call on them, I assume, when you need something like that, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And it works both ways too, because then I have a relationship with an executive, especially people in the C-suite are extremely busy. So if I have the opportunity to meet with them, I think they're a lot more likely to want to talk to me in the future. So that's helpful for me for building that relationship with sources. And I can't speak for all, every journalist, but I'm happy to meet people for coffee if they're in my area. I've done that with a few PR people, with some executives. I had, for example, someone with Nokia reached out to me. We realized we were both in Raleigh. He actually had this really cool image of an old Nokia building that was at the Starbucks that we ended up meeting up at.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so like that, things like that stuck in my mind. I ended up
Yeah.
doing a lab tour because they're in the area. So you just never know what kind of connections you can make.
Oh, that's really good. Well, finally, we opened with your biggest takeaway. So after this conversation, does it still stand still or would you like to change it?
Yes. Yeah, I'm still on keep it simple, be concise to the point. I mean, your time's valuable, but so is mine. So, you no need to send me your Pulitzer Prize application level pitch. It's very short and sweet.
Love it. Well, I think this was a nice, short and sweet conversation that a lot of people will take away some good nuggets from. So thank you so much, Kelsey, for joining me on the show.
Thanks, Maggie.